Welcome to the Goosewand channel. I've not really talked about it on the channel yet, but I'm a pretty big Kamen Rider fan. It was only 3 years ago that I really started watching Wizard. Yes, Wizard was my first writer, and I've been hooked pretty much ever since. And I found some series that have made their way into my all-time favorites, like 01 and Black Sun. And you couldn't imagine my excitement last year when Shin dropped. But it hasn't been all rainbows and sunshine. Last year, in the middle of Geats' run, while that series was running a bit slow and I wasn't super into it, even though it's probably one of my favorite series now, but whatever, I started watching Kamen Rider Revice. And to get some of the more superficial positives out of the way, it's just got some incredible designs overall. Suits like Juga, Demon's, and Evility Live are all-time rider suits for me. Especially Demon's is clean and slick in a way that I just adore. A lot of it is bad, though. The story starts off as fine, and only really gets worse from there, falling apart pretty much entirely right after the midway point, and only recovering a little bit in the last 5 episodes or so. It's not like I expect grand plots of socio-political theming and messaging from my Kamen Rider, except for Black Sun, which does those things grandly, but I expect a little bit more of a cohesive story with good stuff. But yeah, you know, there's an oft-repeated meme, I've seen it in the comments of r/Kamen Rider before a lot, that Revice had enough story for 20 episodes, and they were forced to scramble after that and stretch what material they did have out to 50 episodes. Which really strikes true when you're watching the show. A prime example of this is Ikki's character arc. Our main character, Ikki Igarashi, has a character arc, and when I say a character arc, I mean it. A big emphasis point of his character is his selflessness and willingness to help others, often to his own detriment. The point of his character is that he needs to learn to care for himself and not just others, to see helping himself, caring for himself as a good thing, and not just as a tool to help others. I watched a great video about this a year ago. I think it dropped a few episodes into the run of the season. Either way, he seemingly learns this pretty early into the show. And then he just keeps learning that same lesson ad nauseum. This character arc is repeated upwards of 5 times over the course of the show, to the point that the finale revolves around Ikki learning this exact lesson, around Vice, his inner demon, forcing him to think about himself rather than anyone else. What's even worse than that, however, is how hard the show assassinates the character of Daiji Igarashi. If Ikki Igarashi's story revolves around a man wrought with selflessness and a desire to help others, often to his own detriment, Daiji's is hallmarked by jealousy and a desire to be exactly who people see Ikki as. While Ikki simply wants to be helpful and not a hero, he is seen as such by others, especially so considering the show is named after him. And Daiji wants to be the hero his younger brother is seen as, so much so that his hatred and jealousy manifest as a demon inside of him, Kagerou. In concept, this is a cool arc. It's a good arc, and hell, in execution it's done really well. From episode 5 all the way until the moment Kagerou is defeated by Daiji, Daiji was my favorite character in the show. His arc was cool, his suits were cool, and the personality clash between him and Kagerou was really fun to watch. And then the main problem of the show started rearing its ugly head again. I would not have minded if Daiji just did nothing and sat idly by for the rest of the series. Hell, I would have preferred it to what did happen, because he defeated Kagerou, he defeated his inner jealousy, which should have meant that he is in some way not as jealous anymore, and that would remove some of his agency in the story, and that would have been fine with me. But they just had to ruin him, didn't they? Right after Daiji's victory over Kagerou, Daiji begins to spiral. Instead of being the wholly good version of himself that he's supposed to be, he starts to work together with the main antagonist in a vain attempt to protect his family. And I get the point of this arc. Daiji can only see the wrongs of his ways when he begins to embrace Kagerou, his jealousy, his darkness. Because without Kagerou, he isn't really human, he isn't whole, because a human isn't a human without their flaws. And it makes sense, but the execution is just so bad. I could get more into it, and I might in the future, but I really don't want to right now. I'd much rather talk about the stuff that I do like about Revice, because there's one thing that this series does better than some of my favorite series like 01 or Geats. Because while the character arcs might not be great, this cast is amazing. And that might sound weird, right? Most of my complaints in the previous section pertain to the characters and their arcs, and how they kinda suck. But stick with me for a second while I explain. Revice has probably, out of all writer seasons that I've watched, the cast with the most chemistry in my opinion. And this became incredibly obvious to me somewhere around that turning point of the show, turning bad, when I was more excited to just see these characters interact rather than the actual fights or suits.
フェニックスの構成施設の元デッドマンズの人間に聞かなかったのか。
契約解除のショックか。みんな記憶があやふやなんだ。
ねえ、カゲロウなら知ってるんじゃない？
え？
だってあいつデッドマンズとつるんでたじゃん。
そっか。よし大事。カゲロウ呼び出すわ。いやちょっと待って。いや待って待って
だからちょっと我慢して。
ちょっとマジでやるの？
動かないで。
よーし。大事。行くぞ。いやちょっと待って。いや。痛くしないで。どうなった？
どうかな？
てめえら何の用だ？
よし。カゲロウ、頼みがある。
俺に頼み？
これは傑作だな。デッドマンズのアジトの入り口どこにあるか教えなさいよ。行ったことあるんでしょ？
俺が教えると思ってんのか？
今度は私にライダーキックされたい？筆記人より手加減はできないけど。
教えないとは言ってない。条件がある。
I at multiple times thought that this show would be better if it wasn't a Kamen Rider show, but just a normal 10 to 15 episode J-drama. Which is crazy to me, because I've often thought the exact opposite about normal non-Kamen Rider shows, but I genuinely think this would have made the show a lot more enjoyable. I don't think the writer element should have been completely purged, but a more low-key, lower-stakes story focused more on the characters would have greatly improved the show. Give us more scenes of the Igarashi siblings working at Happy Spa, of Iki and Vice solving crimes and helping people, and of Sakura and Hana hanging out, and then make the big climax, the fight against the Deadmans in episode 15, and just have them destroy Giff right then and there instead of extenuating his defeat until 30 episodes later. I'm not saying this is a perfect idea by any stretch of the word. There's some holes here and there, but in my opinion, if they'd had this conflict as the big final goal of the characters, this conflict against the Deadmans that they have in the original show's episode 15, as the big final goal, and then stretch that goal out over a 20-episode show where we can focus more on the characters rather than the dumb plot and the stupid plot twist of Weekend and all that shit in Akaishi, presented in the latter half of the show, that just sounds like a more enjoyable experience. But that's just my opinion, yeah? If you disagree, leave your own opinion in the comments below. I'd love to hear it, and with that out of the way, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you all next time. Baby, just tell me what you like.